Hi, I'm Dave Bundy, editor of the Lincoln Journal-Star, and we're joined with our editorial board members by Brodey Weber, who is running for city council in District 4. That's the northwest region of the city. Brodey, thanks for joining us. Before we sort of turn this over to you for the starring role, we'll have supporting actors, Kent and Mike, introduce themselves. Mike?
Hi, I'm Mike James. I'm a community member and the newest member of the editorial board.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Hey, Brodey. It's Kent Walgamot. I write about arts and entertainment. Been on the editorial board for 12 years, and we've done this before. So, hello.
Yep, nice to see you again.
And I got to admit, that's the second time at least that I used the line about supporting cast members. So it's not original. Somebody watches all of these, it's going to look old. All right. Well, Brodey, thanks for being with us. And thanks for your willingness to throw your hat in the ring to serve the public. Our first question is, why do you want to serve the public on the city council? Looks like a hard job. And then what experiences and attributes do you have that will help you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that question. It's one I get a lot when I'm going door to door in the district. A lot of individuals ask me why I want to do this, especially when I explain to them that it's a big part of the job is hour-long meetings on Monday evenings, afternoons. But at the end of the day, I've always had a strong desire to serve. It's really important in my upbringing. My grandpa, he actually ran for school board in rural Southeast Nebraska many decades ago. And that was something he was always proud of, was throwing his hat in the ring for that. My dad, he served in the National Guard, and service was just something that was always really important to us and our family. Also, my faith plays a big part in it. I live by the motto to do all the good you can in all the places you can for as long as you ever can. And so I would say that's really why I have a strong desire to serve. But I also have a strong desire to serve Northwest Lincoln specifically, right? This is the area that I've lived in my entire life. I grew up in the Highlands and went to Friedstrom Elementary. I went to Sco Middle School in Fallbrook, and graduated from Lincoln North-Star in 2016, and the university, which is also in the district, I graduated from in 2020. And to help pay for college, I worked for our family business out in Air Park, which is a small tire warehouse company. And, that's why I tell folks is I think as someone who's been raised here, has been educated here, has worked here, I could really be an effective advocate for the citizens of Northwest Lincoln, because if I'm elected, I'm serving my lifelong friends, my family, my neighbors, and I believe they deserve the best representation they can possibly get, especially in local government, where really the policy decisions we make impact our daily lives more than at the federal level or at the state level. And the last thing I'll say about the reason why I decided to throw my hat in the ring is I'm only 25 years old. And I think that's a really important perspective for us to try to have on the city council, right? My generation, we're going to be stuck with a lot of the consequences, the good and the bad, of policy decisions that are being made right now. And so I thought that is really important for someone in my generation to step up and do their part and give back to the community. So that's why I decided to run for city council.
All right. Not really related to this, but you have the cleanest background I've ever seen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well,
very impressive.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Mike's is up there, but Kent and we got to do some cleaning. So you talked a little bit about your knowledge of your specific district, Brodey. What do you think are the biggest issues facing your district, and then maybe different ones that you would need to deal with when you think about the city as a whole?
Yeah, something that I really try to practice when I'm going door to door is listening, right? I feel like a lot of politicians, when they're going door to door, they'll stop and tell voters what their priorities are, right? And I was really intentional when I started this campaign that I wanted to hear what issues were most important to those that I'd be representing, because, you know, I view every time I'm talking to someone, whether it's on the phone or at the door or via email, that lives in the district, I view that as a job interview. And, you know, the number one issue that I hear time and time again in North Lincoln is the roads, right? It's something that I heard, you know, last time that I was on the campaign trail, and it's something that I hear there hasn't been a day that I've gone door knocking where a voter hasn't brought up roads. I think whether it's a reality or a perception, there is this idea that North Lincoln doesn't get its fair share when it comes to you know, prioritizing investments in roads. And so improving the roads in North Lincoln is something that I'm really passionate about. And I've said it's going to be my top priority if I'm lucky enough to serve on the city council, because that's the number one issue I hear time and time and time again. Some other issues that I'm really passionate about that, you know, one that I don't think is really specific to North Lincoln, I think it's citywide, is supporting our first responders, right? Our police officers, our firefighters. You know, I live in the Highlands. I'm on the neighborhood association in the Highlands, and you know, Engine Station 14 is really a staple of our neighborhood and our community. And I see firsthand, you know, how important it is to have that presence in the community. And I want to make sure that I continue to support our first responders how I can, so that way they're able to go out there and do the work that's necessary. And the last issue I talk a lot about that I'm really passionate about is economic development and creating good paying jobs, so that way we retain young people here in Lincoln. I graduated from the university just 3 years ago. And the amount of folks that I've graduated with that have moved to Omaha, Kansas City, wherever it may be, I feel like we're missing that opportunity to retain young people here, so they start their careers, so they start their families, and can really give back to their community. And one aspect that I've talked about in, you know, addressing our economic development here in Lincoln is reestablishing the Air Park Economic Development Task Force. That was disbanded a couple of years ago by the city, and I think that was a mistake. I think we need to bring that back, because as someone who works in a warehouse out in Air Park, I've seen firsthand really the potential that industrial park has for us to bring new industry and to create new jobs. And I think, you know, having grocery stores that are able to not just survive, but thrive will happen as a result in that. I think creating new businesses will really be the product of intentional investment. And I think the Air Park Economic Task Force would be a great way to begin that process.
All right, what solutions do you see for Lincoln's affordable housing shortage and the sort of that missing middle income housing?
Yeah, so obviously, as the youngest person running for city council this cycle, that's an issue that is really personal to me. You know, as someone who has a 4-year degree and is currently, you know, finishing up their last couple of weeks of law school, you know, I've looked at the ability to purchase homes in this community, and there definitely is a affordable housing shortage. I'm not alone. There's a lot of my peers, you know, that I went to Friedstrom Elementary with and Lincoln North Star are experiencing very similar issues. I think the city's affordable housing action plan is a really good step in the right direction. I think it's really important for individuals who maybe aren't experts in every single policy area to really work and learn about how we can support Lincolnites in that way. And so I think it's really important that if I'm lucky enough to serve, that I work with the experts on how we make affordable housing more of a reality here. I think that means really investing in Northwest Lincoln with strategic development, so that way we can build new homes and make it a really great place to raise a family. So I think the affordable action plan is a great first step. And I think we'll have to continue to listen to the experts on how we do it, because I really view that as a huge part of economic development in Lincoln.
So speaking of economic development, the Lincoln Bold Project sort of shined a renewed spotlight on the use of TIF. How do you think the city of Lincoln ought to be using TIF? Is it using it appropriately, too little, too much? What role should it play in the city's economic development plans?
Yeah, I think TIF can be a really useful tool for development. I think it's an essential part to making sure that businesses have the resources they need to thrive. I think it's really important for us to use that to be able to really create a city where we are able to attract new residents and retain young people here. I will say, though, I don't think there's a one size fits all approach with TIF that is effective. I know that specifically with the Bold project, that there were a lot of concerns with local business owners and the Haymarket area. There's a lot of concerns about parking, and I think the city should have maybe taken more time. I agree with Council Member Washington, in the city council meeting, when she was talking about how a lot of business owners didn't feel like they had that ability to be heard because of the planning commission debacle, where they didn't get that notice, because the notice only goes to residents within that area, not business owners within that area. So I think maybe the council moved a little bit too quick on that. At the end of the day, we need to use TIF to support small businesses and to support really strategic development. So I think TIF can be a useful tool, but I don't think, we can have a one size fits all approach with it.
All right, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but what does Lincoln need to do to attract young people, to fill vacant jobs, to keep growing?
Yeah, I think, Lincoln's doing a lot already in that area. I think, as we kind of have previously talked about, affordable housing is a huge issue, making sure that this is a place where people are able to buy a home and settle down and really plant their roots and give back to the community. I also, though, I really do think creating good paying jobs is vital to that. As a member of the Chamber of Commerce's Young Professionals Group, I think there's a lot of great jobs already available for young people, but I think the city needs to be proactive, especially with the economy we're in right now. We need to be looking for really innovative ways in, attracting people to Lincoln. There was just numbers reported about, people, the counties that have seen a decrease and increase in population, and luckily Lincoln has been seeing growth, which I think is a great first step. But we also have to keep pace with that, right? Northwest Lincoln, for example, is one of the fastest growing parts of the city. And I would really like to see our development and our investment, with businesses and with homes kind of catch up with the growth that we're seeing in this city. I also, I know the city doesn't do a whole lot with our school system, but I think having a strong public school system is absolutely crucial as well, in making sure that we're able to retain young people here.
All right, well, Brodey, you've been an efficient answer of questions. So we're to our final question.
Great.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I blew it. Kent leaned forward, and that's his body language that he has a question.
Actually, I'm interested in, you've talked a lot about being the youngest person running, and what do you feel like somehow your generation, the younger, are not adequately being represented in city government, that there's issues or ideas that are important to your generation that simply aren't being considered or even, included in any of the discussion?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that necessarily there is a lack of representation as much as there is just a lack of perspective, right? I was at a candidate forum a couple weeks ago where there were candidates running for city council that were quite a bit older than me, and they were saying what young people wanted, which I just found slightly ironic at times, because I haven't talked to many young people that were in agreement or maybe in disagreement, but it really was clear to me in that moment that unless young people step up to serve, we're not going to have our voices completely heard in the policy making decisions. And so that's why I think it's really important. I think when it comes to young people, members of my generation, I think that for so long we have had a government ran by other generations, other individuals, and at times we've taken it for granted. And so I really hope, if nothing else, this campaign signals to others that if you're 25, 26, 27, 28, that it's okay to step up and serve, right? And it doesn't have to be in politics, right? I joined my neighborhood association about 3 years ago because I benefited as a kid from the neighborhood association. And when I lived in the area, I wanted to make sure, after college, I wanted to make sure that I did my part to give back to the neighborhood. I think making sure that young people know that it's not always going to be another generation taking care of business, and that at times we're going to have to step up to the plate and do our part is really crucial. And so I wouldn't say that there's a lack of representation as much as I would just say there's a lack of perspective right now in policy making decisions.
Let's move it forward again.
Got another one. You mentioned supporting the first responders.
Yeah.
The crime has become an issue in the mayoral campaign, whether, depending on your viewpoint, whether that's exaggerated or not is, what is your thought on what needs to be done? If anything needs to be done further, or what it is that needs to be done, and to go with policing and crime and all of those kind of issues.
Yeah, I will say I feel really fortunate to live in a city like Lincoln. I feel like it's a really, generally, I feel like it's a really safe place to live. Obviously, though, I think the number one requirement or responsibility of government is protecting individuals, right? And protecting its citizens. So I think we need to be proactive in supporting our first responders and making sure that they have the resources they need to be able to take care of this city, right? Whether that's de-escalating some very tense situations, whether that's giving firefighters the tools they need to be able to respond quicker, whether it be a medical emergency or a really unfortunate event. I think it's important that we allow our first responders to have the resources available to them to really do their job effectively. And I think making sure that they're receiving the world's best training that we can have, because at the end of the day, I want to live in a city with the best trained police officers, with the best trained firefighters, with the best trained EMTs. And I feel like Lincoln's done a really good job in supporting our first responders, but I think it's something that we'll just need to continue to do.
Mike, did you have any questions?
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Okay, Brodey, then we're on to the final question.
Awesome.
Not as exciting as Final Jeopardy, but still good.
No.
So what have we not asked you that you wish we would have?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would have to say that it would, come down to something that I'm always surprised about is I'm never asked about where I receive my news, right? When I'm going door to door, that's never been a question that's been asked of me. And I think that that's really important for us to see those who are serving in government positions, where they receive the bulk of their news. I would say that for the most part, just answering that question, I received the majority of my news through The Economist. I have a subscription to that, and I think that that's a really good perspective to stay current with not just what's going on in the United States, but also what's happening all around the world, and really keeping up with that. And I think it has a really unbiased form of reporting, which I really appreciate. I also really get a lot of my local news, obviously not a plug, but from the Lincoln Journal-Star and the Nebraska Examiner. I think both are sources of really valuable news. And I don't know, it's just interesting to me with the world that we live in, with 24-hour media cycles and all of the different accesses to information that we all have, because of our smartphones and other technology. That's something I would like to know about people when they're running for office, how they receive their information. And that's a question I haven't been asked at all this cycle. So I guess that would be my answer. And, I just want to take a minute to say that, at the end of the day, I just feel really lucky, though, to be in a position where at 25 years old, I'm able to run in the general election for city council to represent my lifelong friends, family, and neighbors. And I know I've already touched on that, but I really feel blessed to be in this opportunity. And I always like to acknowledge that. So.
All right. Well, thanks for getting some of your news from the Journal-Star.
Yes,
and thanks for the time you spent with us today, Brodey. With that, I think we're concluded. So we wish you the best on May 2nd.
Sounds good. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.